So the little girl says Catherine, and Biden responds, quote, "That's a beautiful name. That's my mommy's name. How old are you? 17?" And the little girl says 6. Like, how fucking cringe is that?
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich.
And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to let you know about my Black Friday sale with my program, Digital CEO. This course teaches you how to create your own branded app and set it up for recurring passive income. So if you're a business owner, an online coach, or if you've ever thought about taking your knowledge and passion and turning it into an income, this is the course for you. And right now for Black Friday through Sunday, you're going to get it for 50% off. So head to the link in the show notes to get the Black Friday sale.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So Stephanie, last week we were talking about how we avoided a government shutdown because Congress came together with their two-tiered stopgap measure to extend government spending until February so Congress can vote on these remaining spending bills. And we also talked about how House Speaker Mike Johnson said that additional funding to Ukraine wasn't going to be on the table without first funding our own border wall. And so it wasn't included as part of this temporary spending deal. And then Biden had said like he wouldn't sign the stopgap measure unless Congress agreed to give the $61 billion in aid to Ukraine. But then he did end up signing the bill last week. And then I haven't heard anything else about it since. Have you?
No.
Okay. So I'm going through like news articles yesterday, and I come across several articles talking about how the United States has approved $100 million in military aid to Ukraine, despite the lack of agreement on this money in Congress. And I guess U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin made an unannounced visit to Kiev on Monday, and he had a press conference there, and he announced, quote, another $100 million drawdown to provide additional artillery munitions, additional interceptors for air defense, and a number of anti-tank weapons, end quote. And he reportedly told Zelensky, quote, the message that I bring you today, Mr. President, is that the United States of America is with you. We will remain with you for the long haul. What happens here in Ukraine not only matters to Ukraine, but it matters to the rest of the world. And it certainly matters to the United States of America, end quote. So, according to an article in a publication called Le Monde, the United States or the US State Department also said that this latest defense package to Ukraine includes 3 million rounds of small arms ammunition and equipment for their HIMARS precision rocket launchers. And an unidentified senior U.S. defense official has insisted that despite the war between Israel and Hamas and the escalating spike in attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East, we're still fully capable of providing this exorbitant assistance to Ukraine. And as I said, the senior official was not named in the article, but he reportedly stated, quote, on the issue of whether there is competition or trade-off between U.S. support for Ukraine's defense of its country and Israel's defense of its people, there is not. There is some overlap, but where there is overlap in certain kinds of ammunition, there is no reduction in the provision of capabilities to Ukraine, end quote. So my question is this, Stephanie, like, what's the point of this whole show in Congress about not giving the $61 billion in aid to Ukraine, and then we turn around a few days later and the Biden administration announces they're giving them $100 million. And like, I did not see coverage of this in any of the mainstream media. All these articles I read were on like small publications that I hadn't even heard of and that I assume other people haven't heard of.
Yeah. Well, it's all just a show, like you said. Like, I am fully convinced that Congress is simply a theatrical performance. It's there to make the public think that things are happening so that we don't all get fed up and revolt, when the reality is all that ever happens is this like long drawn out battle. And then in the end, they allow the outrageous spending anyways. And it's like, how many times do they hold all of these hearings, yet nothing comes of it? There's no accountability. There's no like outcome. So it's basically a debate club. And like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I think that's the whole plan. But it's like now in today's world, now that we have social media and we can watch everything that happens and we can follow like all these individual House members, we can see like we can see it's all a show. And, as usual, it's like Republicans talk a big game, but they never end up taking action and getting results. So I'm not that surprised at all by this.
Yeah, I feel like I shouldn't be surprised by anything anymore, but here we
I know
are.
it's sad.
But meanwhile, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and we have the Biden administration basically trying to pretend that the United States economy is booming thanks to Bidenomics. And it like literally hurts my mouth to say that word.
I don't know why they keep insisting on using that word when like every indication has shown that no one is like following that or likes it, but yet they keep talking about it.
Yeah, and now they have White House officials who are like posting on their social media about price drops for gas and travel in Turkey and like how great this is for American families. And CNN reported yesterday that according to the American Farm Bureau's annual survey, the average cost of a Thanksgiving meal is down approximately 4.5% from last year. And according to AAA, the national price of regular gasoline is down by 55 cents a gallon over the past 2 months, which is resulting in a 10-month low. And then the Bureau of Labor Statistics data released last week indicates that U.S. consumer price inflation is at its lowest rate since March of 2021. So that all sounds well and good, right? And then to further their claims of like how wonderful our economy is, my favorite person during the White House press conference on Monday, KJP claimed that this Thanksgiving is going to be one of the cheapest ever. And she actually put up a graphic of a food menu on the computer screens behind her. And she was pointing out the price decline of each menu on the item. And she said, quote, as we start preparing our Thanksgiving meals, grocery inflation is at its lowest level in over 2 years, with prices for eggs, milk, bacon, and fresh veggies lower than last year. Prices are down for turkey, stuffing, peas, cranberries, pie crust, and whipping cream, end quote. And then she stated, quote, because wages are rising, this Thanksgiving is the fourth cheapest ever as a percentage of average earnings. As we look ahead to holiday shopping, since last year, prices for toys are down about 4%, used cars and trucks are down 7%, and TVs are down 9%. Lowering costs for Americans continues to be the president's top economic priority, end quote. But is this really going to be the quote, one of the quote, cheapest ever Thanksgivings? Because according to E.J. Antoni, a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Grover M. Herman Center for the Federal Budget, the average cost for Americans to celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow is actually one of the most expensive in history and since Biden took office. And he told the Daily Caller that the total cost of a Thanksgiving dinner has risen 26%. So the article states, quote, from January 2021 to October 2023, the price of turkey rose 31.2%, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. During the same stretch, gravies and sauces featured at Thanksgiving dinners rose 14.6%. Since Biden took office until October 2023, the price of bread has increased by 26.1%, according to the BLS. The price of potatoes increased 14.6% during the same period, end quote. So Thanksgiving is not a holiday here in the Czech Republic, and I won't really be doing much, and I won't be preparing a big holiday meal. But Stephanie, you have family, you have kids, and I'm sure you're doing some kind of holiday celebration. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Is this Thanksgiving meal going to be one of the quote cheapest ever for you?
Hell no. Hell no. And it just like it makes me so mad because I feel like if they just said nothing at all, it would be better than insulting the American public by saying, "Oh, it's so cheap." And it's like it's cheap compared to what, last year? Because last year it was expensive like too. So it's just ridiculous. And I mean, personally, in my house and what I've bought for Thanksgiving, I was thinking about how it's the most expensive time in my life for groceries. And I mean, I'm the one that does the grocery shopping. And every time I check out at the store, I cringe. And it's like a joke now. Like I love shopping at Costco, and every time I check out, I'm just like, oh, like it hurts me when I see the price. And they always say something. They're like, I know, it's crazy, but like at least this is better than most stores. But yeah, like if they're comparing food prices this year to last year, that means nothing. If there's anything I learned from working in sales, you could take any data set and make it favorable for you. And that's like what they're doing. But she must think that the American public is just a bunch of idiots. I mean, people are hurting every time they go to the grocery store. And for her to say, like, oh, prices are down, she's just pissing people off when she could just say nothing at all. I mean, it's ridiculous. But if you compare the prices from 3 years ago, before Biden actually got into office, they were half of what they are now. Like, I don't know where they're getting like 7% inflation. They're like double what they are now. And then, not just buying stuff from the grocery store, but going out to eat is outrageous. And I don't even know if you know this, Tara, because you're not in the country right now. But like, I'm not even talking about sit down restaurants. Like, fast food prices are where sit down restaurants were 3 years ago. I saw someone reported that their McDonald's Big Mac meal was $18, which I totally believe, because it's like I took my kids to Chick-fil-A, which is like their favorite place, and ordered 2 salads and 2 kids meals, and it was $40. So screw you, KJB. Like you could say that the cost of food is down, but like clearly you don't do the grocery shopping for a big family. She probably doesn't have a budget. But I can affirm that my bill is double what it was under the last administration.
Yeah, and I read this article on Fox Business yesterday, and it was saying that because of inflation, like more and more Americans have had to take side jobs, especially with the incoming holidays. And the article said that earlier this month, the Labor Department reported that nearly 8.4 million people held multiple jobs in October, which is the highest level since July of 2019. And as usual, the Biden administration is completely contradicting itself, because just last week, the government said that the average hourly earnings for all employees was $11.05 in October, which is a 3.32% decline from the $11.43 an hour back in January of 2021. So the article states, quote, by that measure, the typical US worker is actually worse off today than 2 years ago, even though nominal wages are rising at the fastest pace in years, end quote. Because frankly, the bottom line is like, we've been fucked with inflation by the Biden administration. And it doesn't matter how much they try to promote Bidenomics or say that inflation is slowing, like, we're fucked. And the article pointed out that compared with January of 2021, prices are up 17.62%. And according to a recent estimate from Moody's Analytics, high prices are forcing Americans to spend an average of $650 a month more than they did 2 years ago. And that they're burning through their savings. They're using credit card to cover basic expenses like food and gas and rent and childcare. So this shit with the Biden administration saying this is the fourth cheapest ever Thanksgiving is complete bullshit, and they can go fuck themselves with it.
I agree. And you know what I just thought of that I don't hear anyone talking about is like, we know that what is it now? 8 million people have come into the United States illegally. So we're competing with those jobs. You know what I mean? So they can say wages went up, because in a lot of places, I know here in Florida, minimum wage did go up. But what they've done is at most places replaced workers with equipment. Like you go in Walmart, it's all self-checkout. You go in McDonald's, you order on a kiosk. And then, like a lot of these other jobs that would normally be minimum wage, they're probably just paying them under the table. People like, where are these people getting money? Like they're probably working under the table and taking a lot of jobs from Americans. So that's something like I would love to see some statistics on, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about that. But anyways, back to Thanksgiving. I'm sure you've heard like this is expected to be the biggest travel time in history. And it's probably because people finally feel like they can travel after all the pandemic vaccination, mask wearing, stipulations and everything that was in place. And seeing how many issues there have been just in this past year with flight cancellations and delays, I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of that if it's such a big, travel time. But Mayor Pete Buttigieg, or as Biden calls him, Mayor Booty Juice, is blaming extremist Republicans for any flight delays we experience. Why? Well, because it's the extremist Republicans that are proposing legislation that will define infrastructure projects. So let's read Booty Juice's Thanksgiving message to travelers, which I found in an MSN article. Quote, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg delivered a Thanksgiving message Monday to, quote, extremist Republicans in Congress regarding air travel ahead of what is expected to be some of the busiest travel days in U.S. history. Bottom line is that, in just 2 or 3 years, we've gone from people wondering whether the U.S. aviation sector as we knew it would survive to a mountain right now of record demand and record work going on to meet that demand. I need to stress that the progress I've discussed and the progress underway with regard to our aviation workforce, technology, and infrastructure is not guaranteed. Every time extremist Republicans in Congress bring us to the brink of government shutdown, it threatens to stop the momentum that we built around training and around protecting customer rights, end quote. So I feel like he's basically saying we can expect a shit show at the airports over the holidays, but it's not his fault. Even though he's transportation secretary and all these issues have happened continually under the Biden administration, it's actually the Republicans' fault because of legislation that they're proposing. I mean, not legislation that's been passed or anything, just what they're proposing. And what I believe he's referring to is Senator Ted Cruz's memo on proposed legislation. So according to a Fox News article, the memo states, quote, billions upon billions of taxpayer dollars meant for infrastructure projects are tied to woke initiatives that are more focused on dismantling America's infrastructure in the name of equity and climate change than building roads, bridges, and highways to connect the country. The memo goes on to say Congress must not allow the Department of Transportation to push the absurd concept of racist roads to prevent Americans from getting much needed improvement in their highways. The funding notices issued by DOT should focus on the law as written and not woke priorities. So Tara, do you remember I don't even remember when that was. It wasn't that long ago that they passed that mega infrastructure package.
Yeah.
But instead of using it on actual infrastructure that would help travel, they used it on renaming racist roads, stupid shit like that. And then not to mention, they told all the pilots, oh, you have to get vaccinated or you're going to lose your job. But no, it's the Republicans that are causing all these issues. So I feel like it's just like everything else in this administration, when traveling turns into a nightmare, they're just going to point the finger at Republicans and probably figure out a way to blame it on Trump.
Well, I think they're also going to be pointing the finger at climate change because apparently there's a storm system that's moving across the East Coast and I guess going through the mid-Atlantic and everything like that. And so it's expected that there are going to be travel delays. And so as usual, I guarantee you there will be some article that comes out that Thanksgiving travel is fucked up because of climate change. So it's either Republicans or climate change, pick one.
Right, exactly.
And then, okay, so, our puppet of a president turned 81 on Monday.
Seriously, that surprised. I thought he was 88, the way he looks and talks. I didn't realize he's only 81.
He's 81, yes. And according to, it's hard for me to say this with a straight face. According to a New York Times report and an article I read in the Daily Caller, close allies to Biden are ramping up an operation called the, quote, bubble wrap strategy to keep Biden from tripping and falling ahead of the 2024 presidential election. So I guess officials in his administration are saying that he should avoid long international trips and be given more time to rest in order to avoid, quote, viral mishaps, end quote. So I don't know about you, Stephanie, but I don't think anything short of locking him in a basement away from cameras is going to help Biden avoid viral mishaps, because even if he was like strapped down in a chair on stage to avoid him like stumbling his way across the stage in the wrong direction, he still wouldn't be able to control his mouth and the nonsense that comes out of his mouth. And frankly, the very concerning comments that he makes.
I know. It's really bad. It's really bad. And even like the left-wing media is talking about his birthday in like really doom and gloom terms. Like, oh, he's only going to get older. Like they know that this is like a real big problem. But I am sorry, like the leader of the free world should not be resting right now. We're like in a global conflict. We're on the brink of a nuclear war, a world war. Like there's so much going on. And like, do you remember when Trump was president and that motherfucker, man, he would be up at like 2 a.m. tweeting. And I'm like, he had so much just, I don't know, energy. And this guy like needs naps. He's got to go to Delaware like every weekend. I mean, it's sad. It's so ridiculous. And if you can't do the job, get the hell out of there.
Yeah, it was funny. Like there was a bunch of stuff on social media. Like I guess there was a picture of him with his birthday cake on the table. And he's like basically like holding onto the table like a dictator giving a speech. And he has this really almost demonic look on his face because the entire cake's aflame with the 81 candles. And so it's just like this huge fire. And people were making comments like about it being, he's sitting in front of the hellfire and like, oh, look, that cake represents the state of America, like going up in flames.
It's
And,
true.
yeah, it is. And that's what's so disturbing. And then, like, just in the past few days, the stuff that he has said, like, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was last week when the Las Vegas Golden Knights hockey team was at the White House and he called Kamala President Kamala again, because this is not the first time, instead of calling her the vice president. And then there's this like weird turkey tradition thing they do at the White House where they like pardon the turkeys, and he like fucks up his own joke at the White House Thanksgiving dinner because he's talking about the journey of the turkeys traveling over 1,000 miles, and his joke was supposed to make a comparison to like their travel being the same level of difficulty as getting tickets to a Taylor Swift concert, but instead of Taylor Swift he says Britney Spears, and then like just totally fucking confuses the whole thing.
Well, with his affinity for like little girls and like tween girls, I don't think that he should be making jokes at all that involve like Taylor Swift or Britney Spears. Like, I want to know who the hell his speechwriter is, because it's like, are they purposely trying to like completely fuck this up at every level? I mean, like, he shouldn't even be talking about like any teen girl like singer or anything. Ugh.
Well, no, and speaking of his affinity for little girls, like this one is going to disturb you because he did one of his creepy pedophile moves where he asked a little girl if she was 17. And I couldn't find the actual clip, but here's what happened. So there was like a friendsgiving dinner for military families at the Naval Station in Norfolk, Virginia. I think it was on Monday or Friday. And during the event, he walks over to a little girl and he says, "I love your ears. I love them. They're really cool. What's your name?" Number one, that's fucking creepy to begin with.
Yeah.
So the little girl says, "Catherine." And Biden responds, quote, "That's a beautiful name. That's my mommy's name. How old are you? 17?" And the little girl says, 6. Like, how fucking cringe is that?
I would never let this man around my kids. Like, he is such a perv. Do you remember that video? I mean, it's been going around for years now. It was when he was vice president and he was taking, like, they do these portraits or whatever with the members of Congress and their families. And I kid you not, every single little girl, and it was only like the little girls, he would like immediately bend down and like whisper in their ear and like sniff their hair. And they were clearly uncomfortable. And like, he did it over and over and over again. And you would even see like some of the moms like noticed and they would like pull their daughter away. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And then like he would wrap his arm around their waist, like you would do with like, your significant other. And I mean, he has done this type of thing on so many occasions, yet like the media acts like it's never happened. And then you have like the Hunter Biden laptop, which we know is real now. I mean, this isn't like debated. And he had his father, Joe Biden, labeled as Pedo Pete. Like, why? I wonder why, And then you have Biden's daughter who left her diary in that house where she said he took inappropriate showers. Like, this guy's clearly a pedophile. And like, just again, it's like, it doesn't matter how much evidence you see with your own eyes. They just ignore it and let it happen.
Yeah.
I gotta like go back and talk about something else, because you talked the other day about Antony Blinken and like how everyone was like laughing and they were like, oh, why does he look so nervous? Like with the China meeting. Well, I have been seeing this video over and over and over again on social media where they're all sitting at a table and like Xi Jinping is like across from them. And Biden has this like that creepy, sinister smile on his face that like, I don't even know what that's about. But what I was concerned about was next to him was Antony Blinken. And everyone was saying they thought he was coked out. I don't think that. I think he was having a panic attack, because I've had panic attacks before and I know what they look like. He was like gasping for air and it looked like he was like convulsing almost. Like the guy was so freaking nervous. I thought he was going to like stroke out. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened in this interaction at this table that he's like that scared that he looks like he's going to have a damn stroke? And then Biden's sitting there with that creepy ass smile that he does when he knows he fucked up. So that made me so nervous. Like I left that whole China thing thinking like, oh, maybe we're making progress. No, something bad went down. And like, oh, it's not good, Tara. Like, you know how they say like a picture's worth 1,000 words? Yeah. Go watch that video. It's alarming.
Great. I'll add that to my
gosh.
thing to be concerned about.
If Biden comes to town, lock up your daughters, lock up your wives, because this guy is creepy.
Yeah, how anyone can bring a child around him is beyond me.
I know. And why everyone acts like this is just normal behavior.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's disgusting. And it's not a good message to send to like young girls either, that like, oh yeah, just smile and laugh it off when like a creepy old man does that.
Who says I love your ears? I love them. Who says that?
A pedophile.
Yeah.
Too. Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully everyone can afford to have Thanksgiving dinner. And if you do, enjoy it. And if you travel anywhere, I will pray for you. And yeah, we'll see you back here on Friday to discuss some fun Black Friday shopping. So everyone have a good holiday and thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.